How many of you are familiar with the story of Vlad the Impaler? His tale inspired the characters like Count Dracula, and without him, vampires probably wouldn't even be a thing in our culture. It's interesting, but before he was Vlad the Impaler, he was just Vlad the Prince. And as a teenager, he was just waiting to ascend to the throne. When a coup happened, his father was killed and he was imprisoned because those that wanted to claim power were afraid that he would become the rightful king. Now, Vlad was meant to die in prison, but that's not exactly what happened, is it? No, in fact, his bloodlust grew and his sanity left him. And once he was able to escape, well, he became Vlad the Impaler, putting all of his enemies on stakes and showcasing his hate, his revenge, all of that. Okay, now why am I talking about Vlad the Impaler? Because I want to talk about a game called Blackguard 2. Your story is essentially Vlad's story. Well, at least the beginning, and probably the insanity part as well. You play a character named Cassie, and in the opening scenes of this game, arguably are the worst opening scenes I've ever seen in a game. There's a lot of people who are going to have a real problem with just the first, 2 seconds of the game. But essentially, you're imprisoned, and as a queen, you had claim to power, but now you don't because you're supposed to die here in this prison. In this prison, there's just a labyrinth of catacombs where those that try will get lost and die. But your biggest enemy actually are the spiders, who will bite you. And essentially, there's two options with the spider bites. Either you go insane or you die. Well, your character's there for 4 years. And let's just say, well, you didn't die. But once you make your escape, you are on a tirade, ready to reclaim your power. Now, that's just the intro of the game, and it does last for a little bit. I bring all that up because as I was playing it, I was kind of afraid that the entire game was the catacombs and these labyrinths. You see, the actual gameplay itself is a strategy RPG with that classic hexagonal grid, and honestly, I think this game tries to do a lot for its ability, meaning there's a lot of options when you get into the game. There's full customization. Your character can be amazing with like a dagger or a spear, and at the same time, be your best cleric. The healer that your team always needs. It's cool how they just give everybody this blank slate for you to start with. It's cool, but it also does put a lot of responsibility in your hands as you've got to develop each and every character to work off each other. Synergy is incredibly important. But you don't get to your characters till later. In fact, when you're in the catacombs, you're completely by yourself, except for your spider friend. And again, they kind of go through this whole tutorial process where some of it honestly could make a little bit better sense. It doesn't all line up how it should, but fortunately it's a strategy RPG and most of us know how to play these games, and it does essentially work off of itself. But the one thing to remember with this game is movement. So there will be a dark blue hexagonal, grid in which you can move, and then there's like more of a light blue. Now, when you're moving into the early dark blue, that will give you an additional move afterwards. But if you move out further, then you use both moves just by your actions of moving. So it threw me off because I had ran up to like some healing water and I was like, why can't I interact with it? And then on the next turn I could. That's the only thing I was ever really confused about with the game. Everything else is pretty much the standard strategy RPG game that, I love to talk about. The other thing that really makes this game stand out is the fact that it also has aspects of like a point and click adventure. You see, when you're not in combat, you're often looking at basically an image and you have a pointer where you can interact with different things, usually people or vendors. But when you interact with certain characters, there becomes options for you in which to negotiate, to have conversations. And that is a major difference in most strategy RPGs because your decisions really do impact the story. And they decide like how much you're going to have to either fight with people or you're going to go ahead and figure out the way to get what you need. Because again, you're starting off as, well, probably an insane woman in the middle of nowhere. And you're trying to accomplish this task of building this team that can overthrow the current empire. That's going to take a lot of negotiations and a lot of discussions between people, and that's where a lot of this game really does play out. So when you're not in these really fun combats, you're in the middle of talking to people and you're trying to get people onto your side. Now, as far as graphics are concerned, I actually think this game looks pretty good. Is it the best? No, but it does actually hold up. Meaning, there is a lot of imagery in this game, including yourself, that is a little disturbing, and you can see all the details. There's a lot of different enemies who end up being something out of like a horror game, and you can see every aspect of them. The scenery, the environments, they all look great. They all pop, and everything looks fantastic. It could, obviously be better in like that 2.5 HD or something of that nature, but, it's an indie title. As far as sound, now this I was really impressed with because there is a lot of voice acting in the game and it's decent. It actually surprised me and was better than certain games I've played where they had a AAA budget. But a lot of this game is in fact voice acted. Now my only issue is those people who are hearing impaired probably aren't allowed to really follow the story because the text goes along with the voice acting and some of it can be really quick. As you guys might know, I usually play with the sound off. I know it's weird. And I try to just read, and there were many times where it was hard to keep up because of how quickly the voice actors were going over the script. But ultimately, I think this is a really great game. In fact, its regular price of $14.99 I think is a really good price. But right now, it's $3.75, which is insane for a game of this magnitude and this length. I've put in many hours into this game, and I still believe there's quite a bit more, to be honest. But I did want to get this out for you guys to have plenty of time to be able to pick it up. And in my time playing it, I found no glitches, no bugs, no issues at all with performance. The game played quite well. The only thing I will say too is ultimately the game is paced a little bit slow. And some people might have a problem with that. I personally don't because I'm used to a lot of strategy RPGs, but it is kind of slow, but the story itself really keeps you compelled and interested to find out what happens, how you gain your power back, why were you even imprisoned in the first place? That's a big question throughout a good chunk of the first part of the game. But everything from the actual combat, the ability to customize your team however you see fit and to build your team how you want, the story, all of this is really impressive, especially for under $4. And you think about that, you can't buy a cheeseburger for $4 anymore. So what an amazing deal. And that's why I decided to talk about Blackguards too. It's not a game I've even heard of. I just happened to stumble upon it in one of my eShop ventures. But I definitely wanted to shine some light on that game for you guys to check out. But that's my thoughts on it. Let me know down below if you've heard of this game, if you've thought about picking it up. It did come out, I believe, last July, maybe June. I can't remember the exact date, but it's relatively new. And having a sale like this is a pretty good opportunity to pick it up. But again, let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section below. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Like always, I'm wishing you health, wealth, and above all, I hope you're truly happy because you make me happy. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.